Justin Trudeau has announced his resignation as the Canadian Prime Minister and the leader of the Liberal Party after weeks of speculation and a mounting political crisis. The Liberal Party has won 3 successive elections since 2015 under his leadership, but over the past years he has become an isolated and deeply polarizing figure as supporters have abandoned the party, angry that it has failed to tackle inflation, housing costs and strains from high immigration in the coming weeks. The Liberals will be gripped by a leadership struggle. Canada faces an election which must be held by October. It will be fought over his deeply flawed legacy and how the next government responds to a looming trade war, geopolitical risk and a sluggish economy is, of course, the big question over there. In fact, joining us at this point of time is Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, former Indian Foreign Secretary to the Government of India. So thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX. Now, as far as Justin Trudeau stepping down is concerned, do you believe that was inevitable, considering the fact that Jagmeet Singh pulled back on support? After that, of course, his war and fight with India. And apart from that, again, all the developments that were taking place in Canada, that there are visuals of people dancing and marching on the streets of Canada.
Well, you had earlier in your introduction outlined the reasons why Trudeau has been compelled to give up his leadership, and I think those are the real reasons. I don't think the fact that he was responsible for the collapse of India-Canada ties weighed very much in this decision. This may have had some marginal impact on political sentiment in Canada, but I don't think this was in any way central to the issues which have compelled him to resign. And those issues, as you brought out quite rightly, are the economic crisis facing Canada, the very high inflation, the housing crisis, unemployment, and of course the divisions within the leadership of the Liberal Party. As you rightly said, Jagmeet Singh, who seems to have prime ministerial ambitions of his own, withdrew support from Trudeau's Liberal minority government. And then there was this further crisis that we saw with Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, parting company with him, offering a resignation because he wanted to move her out and give her some other position other than the Finance Minister, which she refused. But I think the real push has come from Trump's election. And the way he's been mocking Canada and Trudeau. As you know, he's been very critical of Trudeau, more than critical. He's been mocking with him in very undiplomatic terms, calling him two-faced and a hypocrite and a coward and what have you, because they've had problems during the first term between these two leaders. And now in his second, in advance of his second term, Trump really has gone too far in saying that if Trudeau cannot manage the economic situation in Canada and he cannot cope with the tariffs, 25% tariffs that Trump has said he would impose on Canada as well as Mexico, then he might as well become the 51st state of the United States. And adding that, in that case, he'll be able to deal with the economic problems at home and also get full security from the United States of America. And he's called him in his tweets the governor of Canada. And he has repeated that again after Trudeau has resigned. I think this has been the big issue between him and Chrystia Freeland, for instance, the Deputy Prime Minister and the former Finance Minister, because she said that the threat that now Canada is facing because of the tariffs announced by Trump cannot be met with gimmicks. There has to be a strategy, there has to be a plan. So, to sum it up, I would say that the biggest factor in his resignation, apart from the other factors which are important, has been the final push and shove that came from the United States, from Trump.
Right, so absolutely. Now, let me just switch the narrative over here. If Justin Trudeau was popular in his country, do you think he would have still been able to take on Donald Trump? Or do you think that would have then not been an attribute?
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, if a leader is popular in his country, simply because even if it's the United States, is if not hostile, is pushing you into a corner, political corner, by announcing certain decisions which will put you in great difficulty, would not lead to the resignation of the leader, because the nation will stand behind him. And Trump hasn't yet taken over. And then if the nation was behind Canada and all the political parties united to push back the United States, then the scenario would be quite different. It is because he was inherently becoming very unpopular. First of all, he had a minority government, so he was dependent on others. And then you have divisions within the party, and then you have the economy not doing well. And then Trump's threatening to impose tariffs would have shattered the economy. You know, there were some noises that Trudeau was saying that if Trump imposes these tariffs, then Canada will cut off electricity supplies to the United States. Now, this is the sort of thing that Chrystia Freeland said that, this kind of gimmickry won't work, that you have to take all this pretty seriously. So to answer your question, I think if Trudeau was genuinely popular, actually as a minority government, how could he have been genuinely popular in that sense, Frank? I mean, he was a minority government. The majority was not with him. He was surviving on the basis of the support he was getting from the NDP. And there's a 20%, as I understand, gap between him and the opposition led by Polyev, if the nation was to go to polls now. So I don't think that question that you raised is very pertinent in the context of the situation as exists.
All right. So I'd also like to understand from you, of course, March is the deadline that has been put forth to the Liberal Party to pick their new leader. In your best assessment, do you think the new government is going to continue with the same domestic policies?
Well, I don't think they'll be able to make a big difference within a few months. If the elections have to be held by October this year, then they don't have much time. And even if, let's say, a new leader is elected, it still remains a minority government. And the structures and the structural problems that they have are unemployment and housing crisis and inflation and everything else, that's not going to go away. Some steps may be taken here and there to alleviate the situation. But if this is something which is deeply now a feature of the Canadian political economy, then I think there is very little chance that a new leader, whoever it is, can redress the situation and brighten the hopes of the Liberal Party to the point of giving a good fight to the opposition. I think with Trump, after he comes to power and puts more pressure of all kinds on Canada, I think the Liberal Party would be in increasingly difficult position.
Right, so absolutely. And my final question to you, with Justin Trudeau now stepping down, what does that essentially mean for India?
For the time being, nothing much. I don't think that his removal from the scene, which is helpful in some way because he's become the focal point of all our own anger against Canada, because we see him along with his legacy that he's inherited from his father as the main source of misunderstandings with India. But of course, behind that, there is this whole issue of the dependence on the Khalistani elements. After all, there are, I forget the number, 18 or 19 or more MPs in parliament, so it's a very sizable number. And they're all concentrated, the Khalistani fellows, the Sikhs, they're all concentrated in certain constituencies. Like in Britain, many British MPs and all are dependent on the votes of the local Muslims and Pakistanis and Mirpuris and this and that, and therefore take up anti-Indian positions. So similarly in Canada, they'll have to take into account the fact that there are this significant number of MPs on whom any party would depend and court in terms of getting political support in the elections. And then, of course, as I understand, the Khalistani types of the Sikh community has been very systematic in penetrating the governance in Canada by focusing on entry into the police, into the security forces, into the immigration. So all this is very linked, is intimately linked. The movement from India in large numbers from Punjab into Canada and the local, how should I say, arrangements that they have made within that Canadian system to promote this immigration, etc., with all the problems this has entailed. So this is a problem that will endure, and cleaning up the system is not going to happen. Even the opposition. You see, Poilievre also has been trying to court the Sikh community. He's been going to the Gurdwaras and speaking there. For him also it would be important, though I would say that the Conservative Party has been traditionally better for India-Canada relations. So if Poilievre and the Conservatives come to power, then I think some smoothing of ties can happen. But I don't think that this is going to be an easy process. It's going to take a significant amount of time. But the bitterness that exists today between India and Canada because of Trudeau, that bitterness may get reduced.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.